Virtue is a difficult subject, not because we want to be evil, but competing claims about right and wrong make us wrestle with the alternatives. Additionally, people have a seemingly unlimited capacity for self-justification and rationalization. We can engage in questionable acts and later fully support them to ourselves and to others. Consequently, we're tempted to give up on any careful definition and explanation of virtue. Instead, people adopt a kind of superficial utilitarian approach to justice. I'll know it when I see it, which often means I'll make it up as I go.
There's a better approach. The Greek philosopher Socrates examines the nature of virtue in the Republic, which is Plato's account of conversations about virtue and virtuous governance. This is the same Socrates who said the unexamined life is not worth living, so it should come as no surprise that he thinks virtue should be subject to contemplation, clarification, and examination. Socrates reminds us early in these conversations that virtue applies to individuals and individual circumstances must be considered. His example, seemingly pulled from today's headlines, deals with deadly weapons. He asks, if someone borrows a weapon from a man of sound mind, and the return of the weapon is demanded when the man, the rightful owner, is mad or insane, would a true friend give the weapon back and claim this is virtuous because virtue means giving back to people what is owed? In Professor Alan Bloom's translation of Socrates' words, the ancient philosopher says, quote, when he is mad, one shouldn't give back such things, and the man who gave them back would not be just, unquote. For Socrates, the gun control debate needs nuance. Treating everyone the same is the opposite of virtue. His argument suggests that people have the right to bear arms, but he also suggests that this is not the right to commit suicide, nor the right for madmen to attack school children. Surely we can find application for Socrates' arguments in today's world. Moreover, we need to seriously reconsider the assertion that virtue has meaning when applied to individuals, not to abstractions, and not to groups.
Today, virtue is often thought to be applicable more to groups, and especially to classes of victim groups: African Americans, women, Latinos, gays and lesbians, and transgender people, to cite some popular examples. What's wrong with seeing rights in terms of group rights? Well, put simply, it distorts virtue and makes the mistreatment of individuals seem virtuous. For example, institutions that adopt the group rights theory might make college graduation rate equity a primary goal. This is obviously appealing because it wants to ensure that no disparity exists between groups. But to achieve black-white graduation parity, for instance, we wind up in an ethical morass. The easiest way to achieve graduation parity is to graduate a smaller proportion of whites by penalizing them. So this means it is virtuous to discriminate against people because of the color of their skin, the very opposite of what group rights theorists claim to want. And of course, most group rights advocates would oppose this direct application of the theory. Nevertheless, even when group rights advocates don't go that far, they must adopt so-called narrowly tailored interventions. What are narrowly tailored measures? These are simply measures that help only the pre-selected disadvantaged groups. Why? Because any across-the-board improvement leaves preferred groups unaffected, or even worse, off statistically. Consider what would happen if a college or university improved the graduation rate of all students across the board, regardless of race or group membership. In such a case, as wonderful as it might seem, if white students make up, say, 70% of the whole student population, then they would get the most benefit, and disadvantaged groups would look even more statistically disadvantaged after the intervention. Consequently, with group rights policies in place, only select group members can benefit from reforms and improvements. What does this mean in practice? As George Orwell puts it in the book Animal Farm, all are equal, but some are more equal than others. Group rights theory necessitates a perverse reverse utilitarianism in which the most good for the small number of students becomes virtuous. What is virtue? Does it apply to individuals or primarily to groups? How should we define virtue? Can we be virtuous when we treat people differently than their character and their actions demand? Can we discriminate against individuals because of their group memberships? Human beings have a need to identify with virtue and virtuous living.
We cannot achieve self-realization or personal satisfaction, the good life, if we're racked with guilt and condemnation. In developing our notions of virtue, however, we should be cautioned about making simplistic assumptions. As students, one of the greatest accomplishments you can achieve at college is to acquire a deeper understanding of the nature of virtue. I hope that this course helps you to do this.